Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. I am going to introduce you to a child predator, an evil, mean, nasty human being. This man's name is Cansas Sadler Jr. It's really a sad story because at 41 years of age, he had just retired out of the military where he was an Army Ranger. That's right, he was not only an Army Ranger, but then he was an Army Ranger trainer. So he went from a decorated war hero to a deputy sheriff for the Okaloosa Sheriff's Office. And from there, we determined what his inner soul really is, and that's to be a child predator. He was online. He went online to a gaming app where there's interactive gaming called The Wolf. That's where he interacted with our victim, who was a 9-year-old female. She pretended to be an 11-year-old female. So he goes on this app and he pretends to be an 11-year-old female by the name of Jade. Jade was not an 11-year-old female. Jade was an Okaloosa deputy and Army Ranger, retired. So then as he's carrying on the communication between the victim and him as Jade, he says, "Oh, I'd like to introduce you to my dad's friend, Jason." And then he says, "And I've been having sex with Jason, my dad's friend, and he'd like to have sex with you." They exchanged text back and forth between Jade and our victim. And Jade, who we know is Kansas, all of a sudden started grooming our victim, who's only 9 years old. And then he introduces her to nasty terms about photographs. And then he also wants our 9-year-old to take pictures of herself and send to him, which after he grooms her sufficiently, she does. So now we've got a 9-year-old little girl who's our victim, a live victim, who's being groomed by a Okaloosa deputy and retired ranger, and is a child predator. And so he advances this to nude pictures of himself or someone else and asks our victim for nude pictures and successfully obtains those. So all of this goes on for a couple of days. What occurred next was the older sister to our victim tells mom, "Hey, I don't know what's going on, but sister is talking to a man online." Mom immediately gets the child's cell phone, is looking through the communications logs, and the phone rings. And she answers it. And it's Jason wanting to talk to our victim. Well, of course, Mama just has an absolute total meltdown, says lots of things to him, none of which were nice, and then says, "And I'm calling the cops." And she called us. You already know that our detectives that investigate sexual abuse of children and child predators and pornography are simply the very best in the business, and they were on the case instantly. It didn't take them very long to figure out that Cansas Sadler Jr. was the suspect, and they tracked him to Okaloosa County. We contacted our colleagues at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, and let me tell you, Sheriff Ashley and his team are simply the very best. They're game on. They immediately were as angry and mad as we were. No, they were more angry and mad because it was one of their rookie deputies who had worked with them less than a year and was still on probation. But they hired him because he had an illustrious history and a good background. They immediately began their investigation and we teamed up. They filed charges there ultimately. We're filing charges here. Brad Copley is prosecuting this case for us, and he will work with the prosecutors out of North Florida. Now, you know Brad Copley is the best in the business, and he's as upset about this as we are. And upon conviction, we're going to send this guy to prison. So he can say in his resume, I was in the Army for 21 years, I was a Ranger, I fought wars, I was a deputy sheriff, I was a child predator, and now I'm a prison inmate. That's a sad commentary to what started out as a remarkable life. But I can tell you, you don't arrive at the age of 41 years old and do this for the first time. He didn't just happen to be on a gaming site grooming a 9-year-old child, and that's what he did. When he groomed her, he told her he wanted to meet her for sex. He being Jason and Jade, he was playing two roles. When he found out our victim lived on the east side of the county, he said, "Oh, I live in Lakeland." Of course, Mom in the meantime answers the phone when he thinks he's going to talk to the 9-year-old. That's right. He wasn't just doing a mind game online. He was grooming this little girl on the telephone. Well, guess what? The Okaloosa Sheriff's Office and the Polk County Sheriff's Office are grooming him for state prison. And that's where he's going to go. But there's also a message for the parents here. And the message for the parents is simply this. If you're going to allow your 9-year-old child to have a phone that connects to the internet, that connects to gaming apps, you've got to know what they're doing. Because if you're not watching every second of every day, there's another child predator like this looking for your little boy or little girl. We're excited. For those who question, well, you arrest these people, you go online, you pretend to be a predator, but they've really not communicated with a real victim. Why do you do that? Here's why we do it. Because he was out after and actually hooked up with online a child who was naive until he educated her and sent her pictures that a 9-year-old little girl should never see. Talked this little 9-year-old girl into taking pictures of herself. This is a bad man and a new criminal in the Okaloosa County Jail. So I compliment my colleagues at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office for their professionalism. They've got a great ICAC unit. They're game on up there. Sheriff Ashley runs a professional shop. And the biggest part of the conversation was, how can we work together to make sure we can charge this guy with as much as we can charge him with? And now we want to tell parents, you got to know, these deviants, these worthless deviants are online looking for your children. I tell folks, lock your car doors in the neighborhood or somebody's going to steal your stuff. Well, they don't lock their car doors and people steal their stuff. That's cool. But when I tell you, lock your child up or somebody's going to steal your child, understand if you don't lock up their cell phones, somebody's going to steal your child. Even if they steal their innocence online, and great detectives get them in jail before they actually get to your child. But make no mistake about it. This guy had a daughter who was 16, or has a daughter who's 16, and he has a daughter who's 11. And he's been ostensibly in this area for his children's activities, so he's been in this area. Don't think for a minute they won't advance to that next step, because they will. And this guy here was stopped because of an older sister that said, "Mom, this ain't right." And a mom who said, "I'm calling the cops." And sheriff's detectives who were game on, not the day, not the hour, but the second we heard about it. And when we figured out who it was in Okaloosa County, they were game on. But we've got to know. We've all got to work together to protect the children.